Welcome to Sorsogon State University School of Graduate Studies. Today, I am going to present to you a research study entitled Reading Challenges Encountered by the L2 Learners in the Distance Learning Modality 2021, authored by yours truly, AngelineGilana. The abstract of the study. L2 learners struggled in the new normal system of delivering education. Due to the pandemic, different platforms are utilized, one of which is the modular instruction in the distance learning modality. The exploratory research among the identified participants in the secondary school revealed that modular instruction is quite difficult for them to grasp the lesson from different subjects by compensating reading. It found out that there are different circumstances affect them to clearly understand information and learn the lessons included in the modules. However, these L2 learners have and use their own strategies to facilitate learning and were also intrinsically motivated to continue their studies. Henceforth, the result of the survey serves as a call, and therefore, the researcher solicited possible solutions from concerned educators to address these reading challenges among their L2 learners. The introduction. Confucius once said, "Without knowing the force of words, it is impossible to know man." Of the linguistic skills, listening and speaking were the first to be developed. The development of writing came next, and reading went hand in hand with it. That is according from Fernando et al., 1988. The pandemic at present day is like a shifting gear, continuously changing common routines and brought huge challenges in different fields and aspects of Filipino lives. One which is most affected is the field of education. Both educators and learners more or less suffered and challenged to cope with the situation and sustain the continuity of learning. Filipino learners were forced to at least accept and adopt the new normal and embrace the idea that life must go on. Reading is the most equipped skill in the distance learning, as enclosed in the new normal setting of education. Every instruction in different content areas are presented in written text. As it plays a vital role in our society, it is quite essential in transforming an individual to a more capable and advantageous one, especially today that we are under the strict implementations of health and safety protocol. Many lost their jobs. Consequently, parents' resources have been limited, affecting the studies of the children. Reading is a fundamental activity for children's development. It also helps with building a good self-image and playing well with others. Learning new concepts, discovering exciting places, and understanding others' perspectives is key to building a well-rounded self-image. When students learn, they need focus and attention on their lessons. However, students also face struggles in their learning. Reading is one of the basics and is essential in the success of students' learning. On the contrary, there are factors that affect them in their reading, and they are challenged in their reading for some reasons. Some students reach secondary level but are still unable to read are commonly known as non-reader, and this is one of the reasons. Some are also beginners in learning English as a second language, and for that, they are not that very fluent and equipped with English, resulting them to be unfamiliar with the words, missing cohesion and coherence, lack of comprehension and or no comprehension or learning at all. Another significant thing that affects them in their reading is that They see their part to be responsible as a child, a brother or a sister, a student, a part of the youth, of the society, and even as an individual, which give them confusion and inability to give focus on learning, particularly in reading. Reading is truly important because words, either spoken or written, are considered to be the building blocks of life. Due to the pandemic, the L2 learners inevitably encountered challenges in their studies. As mentioned earlier, reading as the most equipped skill to learn in the modular or distance learning modality needs to be more compelling to effectively learn from the written text. The exploratory research is not meant to identify reading challenges as we commonly understood from struggling readers who need to undergo processes and reading strategies to achieve the level of reading competency and efficacy. Rather, to find out and determine reading challenges or circumstances that may hinder these L2 learners to learn their modular lessons through reading. The researcher herself already handled and identified these target participants as independent readers, meaning these L2 learners have already the reading skills and ability and capable of reading independently. Therefore, this paper is opted to explore the challenges undertaken by the L2 learners in reading their lessons through modular instructions, their strategies to facilitate learning through reading, and the actions need to be done by the educators to suppress these burdens. It aimed also to find out possible and appropriate recommendations and adjustments that might be used and implemented in the modular instruction based from the solicited interviews of concerned educators. Within almost 4 weeks of gathering and exploring pieces of data and information, the researcher found out that these identified L2 learners struggled in their learning as they were still at the present in a situation wherein they have to do their part to perform duties and responsibilities as a student and as a member of the family. Therefore, concerned educators who are able to know through the data and information gathered by the researcher suggested some adjustments and other relevant activities and modifications to lessen the burdens among their learners. Related literature. Communicating through written words and interacting with text are not easy feats. It is not true that reading is an effortless task. It is, instead, a complex cognitive process. Aside from this, it is also highly visual because it involves the transmission of messages through the optic nerves. Although one may not be aware of it, a reader may apply different skills when reading a particular text. The reader does more than just read. The reader has to locate main ideas, summarize, paraphrase, note details, and get the meaning of words. That is according from Parrott 2016. To further elaborate the concept of this study, the researcher connects the idea presented by Sequena 2015 as she mentioned ideas from different researches relevant to her study wherein metacognition, self-regulation, and motivation play as affecting and contributing factors in the complexity of the reading process and achievement. The scope of the study. This exploratory research focuses only among the 8 secondary L2 learners of Gati National High School of Bulan, Sorsogon with regards to their reading challenges encountered in the distance learning modality. The 4 participants came from the senior high school, particularly grade 12, under the general academic track, and the other remaining 4 participants from the grade 10 level. These participants are consistent academic achievers. However, they belong to a less fortunate family covered by the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program or 4Ps of the Philippines. The objectives of the study. This study is conducted to determine the reading challenges encountered by the L2 learners and their strategies employed to facilitate learning through reading, and those recommendations would the language and content teachers implement to at least lessen the burdens of these L2 learners. Materials and methods. The research design. This exploratory research used descriptive method to describe indicators determining the different challenges encountered by the distance learning students and their ways or strategies used to facilitate learning through reading. Personal interviews were conducted among target participants. Survey questionnaires were also utilized to serve as an authentic evidence for the study. Consultation and interview among concerned educators were made to at least give answers and recommendations that will lessen or more or less address reading challenges among the learners. Percentage and rank scales were used to measure the gathered data. The participants. The 8 target participants were chosen from the secondary public school, students under 10 and 12 grade levels. These participants came from the heterogeneous class and labeled as average learners with 80% general rate average and above. 4 students from grade 10 and another 4 students from grade 12, and they are all consistent honor students. Their age ranges from 16 to 19. 3 female and 1 male from grade 10 and 3 female and 1 male from grade 12. Out of the 8 participants, 7 of them are supported by the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program or 4Ps. Most of them belong to the poverty line, and family members who are working for their daily living belong to low-income earners or employed in an unstable or part-time job. The research instruments. The researcher used the following instruments: the participants' survey questionnaire, the participants' interview protocol, and educators' interview protocol. Results and discussion. Data analysis procedure. The researcher used the given statistical technique to measure the data collected in the study. Descriptive statistics was utilized for the quantitative data, particularly data from the survey questionnaires. Findings. These findings are outlined by the following 2 major research questions. First, the reading challenges encountered by the L2 learners in the distance learning modality. Second, the strategies they employ to facilitate learning through reading. Other relevant questions are included to support the major research questions. Responses to survey questionnaire. Table 1. Reading challenges encountered in the new normal setting of learning. The data revealed that the students cannot focus on reading because they were disturbed with other things. This is supported with the factor that they were occupied to do and attend different house chores, leading them to hardly understand what they read. Additional factor on subject interest also affect their comprehension in the lesson. The first 3 mentioned factors led students to hardly manage their time in reading their modules. Table number 2. Strategies employed to facilitate learning through reading. The data reveals that students read the lessons in the module repeatedly for them to understand those. They initiate to use other materials like the dictionary and search the internet to get additional ideas. Also, they do brainstorm activity with their other classmates to gain understanding and learn from each other. Table number 3. Acceptance of the new normal setting in education. These L2 learners prefer the face-to-face learning modality to give more focus and attention to their studies because they are no longer comfortable in learning the lessons in the distance learning modality. Table number 4. Accepted family support. The data reveals that families of these L2 learners are supportive in their studies. Table number 5. Motivational factors affecting learning interest. Despite of the reading challenges encountered by these L2 learners, they are still motivated to continue their studies. As they receive full support from their family, they make them as their inspiration in their studies, and at the same time believing that education is one of their answers in achieving their dreams. The recommendation. In closing these studies to find out possible answers that educators may give to at least lessen the challenges encountered by the students. The result of the survey enables both language and content teachers understand these challenges. In this case, teachers came to realize that there is a need to be done and change some usual practices to consider the undertakings of the learners. Therefore, some recommendations will be manifested and employed to at least lessen these challenges encountered by the L2 learners. One, motivation and encouragement during home visitation and monitoring. 2. Teachers' initiative to extend considerations, help, and patience. 3. Contextualization and modification of the modules by preparing the learner's activity sheet or LAS. 4. Creation and utilization of instructional video. 5. Utilization of the class group chat and Facebook page platform. 6. Individual tutorial. And 7. Availability of school facilities and devices. The conclusion. This study clearly showed that students under the modular instruction equip themselves with their own strategies to efficiently learn and continue taking the process of learning. The gathered data revealed that these types of learners who are consistently academic achievers are also experiencing difficulties caused of some affecting factors, misleading them to perform appropriately in their studies as expected from them. One of which is that they find it hard to manage their time properly because they were disturbed with different things to be done, including attending different house chores and taking some errands. Other reason is that their reading activity is affected once they encounter terms which are not familiar with them, making them confused and disturbed because they do not really know the meaning or the connection of the term in the lesson. Aside from it, interest in the subject also matters because they cannot understand what they are reading once they are not into liking the subject. However, it has been found that the employment of some personal learning strategies enables these learners to take charge of their own learning as they serve as their primary and basic aid to learn their modular lessons. It was also found out that reading the text repeatedly and peer assistance and brainstorming activity are effective ways of gaining understanding among these learners. Initiative from the students is also discovered in this study, making themselves productive through their personal efforts to gain knowledge and understanding by checking those unfamiliar terms and consulting internet researches to get additional learnings. It can be noted that these strategies serve as compensatory strategies employed by the L2 learners to be able to cope with the reading challenges. This result conforms to the citation subsequent at 2015 from the other studies that reading behavior is stimulated by motivation. The brainstorming they do increases the amount of reading, and as they share and participate responsibly in a community of learners in accomplishing tasks, are likely to be intrinsically motivated readers. This study also concluded that these less fortunate but diligent learners have a stable learning interest to continue their studies despite of challenges brought by the pandemic. These students use their family as their inspiration in continuing their studies as they felt their family's support and believing that education could be an answer in achieving their dreams and aspirations. This study also led secondary educators to come up with utilizing and implementing of acceptable ways to address the burden of distance learning students to further extend their service with quality and compassion. Attached in this presentation are forms filled up by the target participants, the informed consent, and the survey questionnaires. The references checked and used by the researcher in accomplishing her task. About the offer, AngelineGilana is presently taking her MAED graduate studies at Sorsogon State University of Sorsogon Province. She has been rendering her teaching profession for more than 6 years, since 2014. She is currently assigned in Gati National High School, handling grade 10 English subject. Ms. Gilana is interested to learn further how to creatively and effectively execute her instructions through the use of technology and social media. She is also willing to take opportunities that would help her to become more competent in the teaching field.